Soham murderer Ian Huntley dies after prison attack. Ian Huntley became one of Britain's most reviled killers after he was jailed for 2 life sentences for murdering 10-year-olds Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman in 2002. Soham murderer Ian Huntley has died following a prison assault. The 52-year-old was taken to hospital after being found in a pool of blood following an alleged attack by an unknown inmate on February 26. The former school caretaker was attacked in a workshop with a metal bar at HMP Frankland in County Durham. Police said earlier that a man in his mid-40s was being investigated over the incident. Huntley was convicted of the murders of 10-year-olds Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman in Soham, Cambridgeshire, in 2002. He killed them after they left a family barbecue to buy sweets, then dumped their bodies in a ditch. Huntley was convicted of the murder of both girls in December 2003 and sentenced to 2 terms of life imprisonment. Durham Constabulary confirmed Huntley had died in hospital on Saturday morning. Ian Huntley, 52, was taken to hospital with serious injuries following an incident in the workshop on the morning of Thursday, February 26, a spokesman said. A police investigation into the circumstances of the incident is ongoing. A file is being prepared for the Crown Prosecution Service for consideration for charges. A Ministry of Justice spokesperson said, "The murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman remains one of the most shocking and devastating cases in our nation's history, and our thoughts are with their families." According to The Sun, the attack last month left Huntley blind, and he was not expected to regain consciousness. The newspaper quoted a source as saying, "Huntley never recovered from the battering and never stood much of a chance of doing so." After the attack, the murderer's only daughter, Samantha Bryan, 27, told The Sun on Sunday that there's a special place in hell waiting for him. Huntley had been injured in a previous attack at HMP Frankland in 2010, where an inmate slashed his throat with a makeshift knife. The prisoner was jailed for life over the incident. The crime made Huntley one of Britain's most reviled killers, with the murder shocking the nation and raising questions about how a man with a history of sexual allegations against him had been allowed to work at a school. Title: The End of a Shadow, Reflections on the Death of Ian Huntley. History often remembers crimes not only for their brutality, but for the scars they leave on society. One such shadowed chapter in modern British history is connected to Ian Huntley, the man responsible for the tragic deaths of 2 young girls in the case widely known as the Soham murders. Years after his conviction, news that Huntley died following a prison attack closed a grim chapter, but it also reopened painful memories and difficult questions about justice, punishment, and healing. In 2002, the quiet town of Soham in Cambridgeshire was shaken by a tragedy that shocked the entire United Kingdom. 2 10-year-old schoolgirls, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, disappeared on a summer evening. What followed was a desperate search that united communities and dominated headlines. Days later, the heartbreaking truth emerged. They had been murdered by Ian Huntley, a local school caretaker whose position had once symbolized trust. The case horrified the nation not only because of the crime itself, but because it shattered a basic sense of safety. Huntley had lived among the community, smiling at neighbors, speaking with parents, and working near children. The betrayal of that trust was perhaps the darkest element of the tragedy. After a highly publicized trial in 2003, Huntley was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, ensuring he would likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. For years, he remained one of the most infamous prisoners in Britain, held under strict security due to the nature of his crimes and the public outrage they provoked. Yet prisons are complex environments where tensions simmer constantly. Among inmates, certain crimes, particularly those involving children, carry a deep stigma. Prisoners convicted of such acts often become targets of violence from other inmates who see themselves as enforcers of their own distorted sense of justice. According to reports, Ian Huntley's life ended after an attack inside prison. While authorities investigate such incidents carefully, the reality of prison violence is not new. In places designed to contain society's most dangerous individuals, anger, hatred, and vengeance often coexist within narrow walls. For some people, the news of Huntley's death may bring a sense of closure. For others, It may feel insignificant compared to the loss suffered by the families of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman. No event, whether a prison sentence or a violent death, can undo the grief that began on that summer day in 2002. What remains most important is remembering the victims rather than the perpetrator. Holly and Jessica were vibrant children with futures full of possibility. Their lives were defined by friendship, laughter, and dreams, things tragically cut short by a senseless act. The Soham case also led to lasting changes in Britain. It prompted major reforms in child protection systems and information sharing between police and institutions responsible for safeguarding children. These changes aimed to prevent someone with Huntley's troubling background from working so closely with young people again. In this way, even the darkest tragedies can create momentum for change. Society learns painful lessons about trust, vigilance, and responsibility. The death of Ian Huntley does not erase the crimes of the past. Instead, it marks the quiet end of a man whose actions once commanded worldwide attention for the worst possible reasons. What should remain alive in public memory is not his name, but the story of two girls whose friendship symbolized innocence and joy. History often struggles with how to remember such figures. Some argue that speaking their names gives them a form of unwanted immortality. Others believe understanding the past, no matter how disturbing, is necessary to prevent repeating it. Perhaps the most balanced path lies somewhere in between, acknowledging the crime while centering the victims and the lessons learned. In the end, the death of Ian Huntley is less a dramatic conclusion than a reminder. It reminds society of the fragility of trust, the importance of safeguarding children, and the enduring resilience of communities that refuse to be defined solely by tragedy. And in that remembrance, the true legacy of Soham is not the darkness of the crime, but the determination to protect the innocence that was once lost.